Today we will talk about XLM and XRP with an example of how Stellar is oftentimes also collaborating with the companies and entities that get a lot of attention because of Ripple and XRP headlines. And the example is Thunes. And as is called out here, they are partnered with payment platforms such as Western Union, Visa, PayPal, and MoneyGram, which have not only extensive connections to Ripple and XRP, but also Stellar and XLM. In 2019, Western Union partnered with Stellar collaborator Thunes for mobile wallet transfers. And in October of 2024, Thunes and Circle are working with the USDC stablecoin, which, as I have talked about often, has extensive ties into Stellar. Here is Circle talking about Thunes.
But what we've really done very well is that last mile of delivery. Sending funds directly to a bank account, sending funds directly to a mobile wallet. We've created those last legs of a transaction, and we've done that extremely well at Thunes. What we haven't solved for yet is our customer settlement. So our customer today has to send us, a wire. They have to send us fiat currency in order to settle for those payments that we're doing on their behalf. So behind this real-time payment rail is actually underpinned by the banking system itself. And all of the complexities and the length of time and
the non-real-time part.
Yes, exactly. We all know the complexities there. And so what USDC is doing for us is as simple as your value proposition itself. 24/7, 365, and real-time funding.
And the explanation there sounds a lot like what MoneyGram has recently talked about at the 2024 Stellar Meridian Conference. I talked about Ripple and Thunes almost a year ago now, which was pretty early on into my exploration of Stellar. And the amount of information I have seen that ties back into how Stellar has essentially created a public-facing infrastructure, I am inclined to think more and more that Stellar can be more crucial in these kinds of applications. And just to be clear, I am not at a point where I don't think that Ripple and XRP are important. They are both direct products of the PayPal Mafia, which have now worked their way into the upcoming Trump administration at extremely high points. And I just find it very hard to think that all of the connections and all of the working relationships and with all of the institutional ties such as the BIS and IMF that have had events where people from Ripple are personally involved, I just don't think that that's not important in a significant fashion. I'm just not 100% positive on how everything will be rolled out. And I don't think that anyone who claims that they are 100% positive are actually speaking truth. Stellar has positioned itself and its entity in a extremely adoptable way. And a lot of that is because the Stellar Consensus Protocol and the Stellar network itself is controlled by a not-for-profit entity, and it is pretty open source as well. While the networks and the protocols are pretty comparable, the Stellar network and the Stellar protocol are designed to be much more easily accessible to anyone who wants to create these kinds of payment infrastructure applications on top of it. And I have explained it a couple of times. I won't get into how they compare and contrast a lot here, but at this point in time, Stellar is a lot easier to construct on as compared to the XRP for these kinds of large scale enterprise and institutional applications. Here is a bit on the history of Thunes, XLM, and XRP, all of the way back from 2019. Transfer to, aka Thunes, partnered up with Stellar to bolster international money transfers. Western Union tested XRP and said that it was not efficient, which a lot of that probably comes down to the protocol itself as compared to the transactions per second or the transaction cost. And then Western Union partnered up with Thunes, who is Stellar's partner, as I called out here. Who is Thunes? They are a cross-border payment company, and a large part of their concentration is creating a global payment infrastructure platform. It calls out here that they are able to connect hundreds of payment methods and brands so that with only a single connection to Thunes APIs, payments are able to be sent and received anywhere. And that sounds a lot like what the Stellar network is as compared to Ripple, where Ripple is creating a for-profit network and protocol that is designed to revolve around USD and XRP, whereas Stellar has created the network and the protocol to act as tools to allow people who want to create their own kinds of payment applications on top of Stellar. And that comparison might not sound as if it is extremely different, but it goes back into how Stellar is organized as a non-profit. And on the topic of creating a global payments infrastructure, the UN Capital Development Fund has specifically called out Ripple and Thunes. So it is interesting that Ripple is specifically called out. Here we have an example of Ripple's XRP-centric approach. In July of 2024, Thunes was talking about the ILP and specifically utilizing XRP in transactions. They have also recently talked about a new service that enables institutions to send payments directly to 3 billion wallets. And that is because of the Swiss route, who is involved with Swift and Mastercard as well. And the interesting thing about that is that Mastercard has had a lot of recent announcements that directly and indirectly refer to Stellar. And as I have talked about several times, Mastercard has a lot of connections into some of the most prominent CLT institutions out there who have created pilots, networks, and applications on top of Stellar. And Standard Chartered and the HKMA are just two examples of those.